Hey there, I'm Naomi Kinsman, the Executive Director of Society of Young Inklings, and today we're talking about big ideas. Now, when you are choosing a story idea, it's very important to think about something that is going to speak to your heart. You don't want to just choose any old idea to write about because you want something that you're going to want to stick with and something that matters to you. I want you to take a second and think about a book that has made a difference for you. A story that caught your heart, that made you want to read it and then maybe read it again and maybe even again. Why did you love that book so much? Possibly you're thinking it was an adventure, it was mysterious, it made me keep turning the pages, I loved the characters, the setting was mysterious or exciting or magical. But underneath all of those things, I would bet that what you really loved about that book was what the story was all about. Maybe the story was about friendship, or about freedom, or about taking responsibility, or about finding one's voice. All of these ideas are important, and they're ones that we all feel strongly about. And so when you find a story idea that really captures your own heart, you're going to find that you found a story idea that will capture someone else's heart. Now, in this whole series, we've been talking about the Inklings Book Contest, which happens every winter for young Inklings. We accept applications from about the middle of January through March 15th, and all of the entrants can submit stories or poems. And the ones that we find that really catch us, that make us think, that make us wonder, that make us want to choose those stories for the actual publication in our book, they're all stories or poems that have some sort of big idea at the heart of them. That doesn't mean they're all super heartfelt. Some of them are very funny. Some of them are just really wild and zany. But within the story, even though they have those humorous elements or those kind of fun and exciting bits and mystery and adventure, they still have something that makes us think, that makes us care, and that touches our heart. So it's something to think about when you are choosing a story or poem idea. Now today we created a printable for you, and you can see it in the feed below. There is a page like this that you can use to play along. But even if you don't have this page right now, you can come along and do this activity with me. You can print it out later and think about it even more. I want to take you through a series of questions. We're going to play a game we played before. It's called Choices, where you choose one option or the other. And as we're thinking about these options, we're thinking about what you would choose in some tough situations, because tough decisions are a great way for us to start to think about what actually matters to us. I think you might even find that you'll be a little surprised as you think through these choices. Some of them will make you have very strong feelings. And if you have strong feelings, it's great to pay attention, because that might mean this is a big idea that matters to you. So here's the first question. If a friend had done something wrong and a teacher asked me about the situation, I would tell the complete truth, or I would keep my friend's secret. Which would you choose? To tell the complete truth or to keep your friend's secret? Okay, we're going to move on to the next one. If two friends were in a disagreement and I believed one point of view was right, I would support what I believed to be true, or I would completely stay out of the disagreement. Would you support what you believe to be true, or would you stay out of the disagreement? It's a tough choice. There isn't one particularly perfect answer here. Next up, if a teacher or parent created a rule that I thought was short-sighted or unfair, would I keep the peace and follow the rule anyway, or would I express my point of view and do my best to change the rule? So would you keep the peace, follow the rules, or would you express your point of view? It's a tough decision. Next up. If a friend asked for my opinion and I knew the truth would hurt his or her feelings, would I be honest even if the truth was difficult? Or would I make sure to keep from hurting his or her feelings? This is a tough one too, because some of us feel very strongly about telling the truth, but we certainly don't want to hurt our friends' feelings either. So what would you choose in that situation? Next up. If I had the opportunity to skip out on a class or activity I truly didn't want to attend, would I keep my commitment and attend the event, or would I give myself the space to do what I prefer to do? Yet another difficult decision. We have two more. If a judge offered to give me a prize on a creative project that I changed if I changed one element that I didn't want to change. So let me do that again. If a judge offered to give me a prize on a creative project if I changed one element that I did not want to change, would I stick to my original vision, or would I go ahead and win the contest? This is another very tough one. Last up, if I saw a way to win a game, but I knew the other player or team would be disappointed or devastated, would I win or keep the peace? All very difficult decisions, and we all will have different things that we say about them. Now, on this worksheet, you'll see there's a second part to this activity, and I'm not going to have you do it right now, but I want you to take some time after this session is over and think about what ideas stuck out to you. Down at the bottom, it says, list some of these feelings or these concepts that were really important to you. Friendship, competition, truth, loyalty. What sorts of things do you feel that you cannot compromise on? Those kinds of big ideas are the things that your stories can grow out of. If you decide that you want to write about truth, then find a story that really challenges somebody's idea of telling the truth. Now, I want to talk to you just a little bit more about how writers actually bring big ideas into their work. There are 3 strategies I'm going to talk to you about today. And the first one is using an endowed object. I actually brought one for you today. This is my butterfly ring. This is a personal endowed object for me. This ring I actually bought in the middle of a crisis situation for myself. I had gone to my very first writers' conference and I had brought a book that I felt very proud of, and I got some feedback about my book that was true, but that really, really hurt my feelings. It made me feel like maybe I would never be a professional published author, because it was just so hard to hear that this book that I thought was so wonderful and amazing wasn't quite up to snuff yet. And so what I did is I went and I bought this ring, and I took it back to my room, and I made a list of all the things I knew that I was great at when it came to writing. And then on the opposite side of the page, I made a list of the things that I felt like I still needed to learn. And I kept that list for a very long time. I started working through those things that I needed to learn, but I kept reminding myself too of those things that I knew I was great at. They were part of me as a writer. And every time I looked down at that ring, I remembered I could do this thing. There were things on the side of the page that were about me being a great writer. And while there were things for me to learn, I still had that list of things that I could do and that I was proud of. So that's one strategy. You can actually give a character some sort of object, maybe something they wear, something they carry, something they hold. Annie's locket is actually a great example of this, where it reminds the viewer or the reader about what's really important to the character. What are they thinking about? What are they tapping into right now? Now, another thing that might come up for you is a repeated image. So this is actually a book by my friend Mandy Davis. It's called Superstar. It's an amazing book. If you haven't read it, you should go out and read it. In her book, this idea of superstars comes up often. It comes up in multiple ways. But in the very first scene, we have our main character sitting out and watching a star come shooting through the sky, a superstar. And the main character, Lester, is always thinking about these stars, and he calls them superstars. And they come up again and again in the story, all the way up until the end of the story. So this idea is repeated again and again and again. So when you're thinking about something that you want to bring up in a story, you can think, how could I repeat this again and again and again? Many writers will use fire or water or some other symbol or maybe some kind of word that they put into a story multiple times. And that's a great way for us to see that this is an important idea that we need to pay more attention to. You can find it as a reader, but you can also use it as a writer. And the last thing I want to bring up, one third strategy, we had endowed objects, we had something that happens again and again, or a repeated motif. The last thing is a wise mentor scene. Now, in Wrinkle in Time, which is one of my very favorite books as well, there is a scene where Meg meets the happy medium. I'm showing you the graphic novel version of this because this is a little more visual for you. In this book, Meg meets with a woman who is called the happy medium, which is kind of a play on words and a joke, but also she's a very wise character. And she shows Meg this very scary scene where she can see darkness surrounding Earth. And then what she does is she actually tells Meg about a time when she, as a star, gave up being a star so that she could help save a big part of the universe. Because this happy medium isn't just a medium, she actually was a star. But the important thing I want you to think about with this scene is that when we have a character who is wise in some way, usually an older character who's telling a story from their lives, often this story or this image they share with us is something that plays into the bigger idea in the story. And in this story, it's so much about how can I use the way that I can love others and sacrifice myself for others to show them that I love them, that I care for them, and how can love overcome the darkness in the world? So that's a big question and a big idea that comes up in Wrinkle in Time often. A really important one to write about, and probably one of the reasons that I love that book so much. So what I want to leave you with right now is I want you to think about how you can use these 3 strategies: an endowed object, a repeated motif, or a wise character scene, to show this big idea that you have in your story. How could you use one of those strategies to really help your reader see what it is that you're trying to wrestle with in your story? I hope that you do choose some sort of idea that touches your heart, that speaks to you, that's important to you, because when you write a story, it takes a lot of commitment and it takes a lot of your heart and time. And so if you're going to choose something to write about, you want to choose something that really matters to you, because then it will definitely matter to others too. We hope that you'll keep on writing, and we definitely hope that you will write something to submit to our Inklings Book contest. We can't wait to get to know you better if we don't know you already, and we're so happy that you joined us today. If you're a parent or an educator and you're watching this, I would hope that you would also share this with some of the young people in your life. And don't forget to pick up that printable where you can answer these questions, or your young writers can answer these questions, and don't hesitate to reach out to us. We always love to hear from you. See you next week.